Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Backstage Bimbo TV. My name is Allison Rouse, your most notorious groupie, and author of We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie. Moi. Thank you, everybody, for coming back and for stumbling across and subscribing. I really appreciate everybody. Don't forget, if you're new here, hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit the bells, because you're going to hear some awesome cocktails and rocktails. And today is no different. This is kind of a bit more of the expansion that I've been trying to do because I skip over a lot of things in my life. And also this is in response to a review from a non-verified purchase on Amazon saying, oh, she was homeless, she did this, trying to twist my life into something it was not. Okay? So, cocktail for today, because we're talking about the first time I lived in Seattle, is going to be the Emerald City. Recipes down in the description. It's pretty easy. Blue Curacao, some Midori, and some Malibu. Beautiful color. Love it. Alright, folks. Why don't you follow me down the yellow brick road into the Emerald City? So kick up your heels, kick back, and let's have some cocktails and rocktails, shall we? Cheers, big ears. Ooh, that is sweet. Not bad. I'm not too much of a sweet. I'm more of kind of whiskey girl, as Toby Keith called it. Anyway, so, in response to this person, who obviously did not read the book, again, another one of those, they were referring to this part of my life the first time I lived in Seattle with Danny. She and I had gone up there. The second time was with Kristen. So she was referring to this and being very degrading. You know, saying, oh, she experienced homelessness and theft and all. I've never been a thief in my life. Did we have some struggles in Seattle? Yeah, and you're about to hear the actual story instead of someone who is a keyboard warrior hiding behind a false ID who didn't even read the book because it'll say verified purchase. She's not verified. So here's the real story to that. For those of you who have just sort of found my book and have read the reviews, this is where you come if you want to hear the actual story. Don't listen to the people on the reviews, okay? So, here we go. Let's click our ruby slippers, shall we? All right. So, Danny and I had known this girl, Shara. Her real name was Anna, but she just really liked to go by the name Shara. She had changed it legally and everything. And her mother had moved up to Seattle. Shara was around backstage a little bit. She had hung around been with someone in a couple other bands. Danny from Dangerous Toys. She was with, who else? A couple of roadies and stuff, but she was one of the Tub Tarts in Salt Lake City who actually busted, told Danny and I the Tub Tarts were going on. She's like, oh no, James and Lars they didn't do it here. They had nothing to do with it. Okay, good, but she was a Tub Tart. Nothing wrong with that. She was a nice girl, whatever. We hung out. She had been cool with us, and we kept in touch when her and her mom moved up to Tacoma. She's like, oh my God, Seattle's amazing. The music scene is incredible. It's a whole new genre, blah, blah, blah. She's like, you guys have got to come up. And she had spent New Year's Eve with us, with Scott Dalhover and Dangerous Toys and the Cult and everybody down in LA. She had just been with us. So I'll vlog that one here. Hopefully to get it done before this one. So she had been down with us in LA with Dangerous Toys and stuff, and then moved to Seattle. And she's like, no, you guys have to come here. It's so awesome. She's like, it's just this whole new music scene. She's like, you can live with us as long as you need till you get a job and have money for an apartment, blah, 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 blah. That whole thing. So Danny and I are like, well, should we do it? Fuck yeah, we're kind of tired of Salt Lake. We want a different adventure. Obviously, we were adventurous girls, so why the hell not? So I remember we told our mothers, and they dropped us. We got one-way ticket Greyhounds. We put a bunch of stuff in storage at our family's homes. Packed some suitcases and a couple boxes of what we wanted with us. Put them on a Greyhound. Took off. Yeah. Up to Seattle. with the intention, and this is what this woman doesn't know, because again, she obviously did not completely read the book, and she admits herself that she skimmed through it. So here's the bit you missed. We went up there under the promise that we were going to be staying at Shara's with her and her mom. Her mom knew we were coming up, so we were under the impression that we would have a place to stay. Danny and I, neither of us come from seedy backgrounds or ever worried about the roof over our head or the phone. I'm not going to apologize for my parents working hard and making a lot of money, but we had never experienced anything like this before, and plus we had been around rock and roll always lived up to its word. So we were very naive when we went up to Shara's. So we get there, everything's cool, her mom's cool, we get settled into, they've got a 2-bedroom, we're going to be sleeping on the couches, everything's cool, right? No, no. There were bands playing. Shara's like, oh yeah, Dangerous Toys is playing, Overkill's, all these bands were coming. We're like, fuck yeah, cool, we already know all these guys. We were excited to get immersed into the Seattle scene and the music, and she was talking about these bands, Alice in Chains and Rhino Humpers and Blackened, My Sister's Machine, Mother Love Bone had just been signed. They were the first band signed into the grunge, and Andrew Wood was still alive. So we go up there and we're hanging out, and she's in school, but she's dating this guy that she met. She was going to school to be a welder because she had a dream of Flashdance. I don't know. Everybody's got their dream. To each their own. So she's in welding school, had met this guy. Turns out she's pregnant. And we're like, well, Dangerous Toys is playing. Do you want to come up? What do you want to do? She said no. But then I guess she expected Danny and I not to go to see our friends. And I was still sleeping with Scott. Scott and I, a couple of years at this point. So Danny and I go up, we're hanging out with Dangerous Toys, and this is about a week into our stay. We had already all gone up to Seattle and kind of felt the grounds, bought some weed from some guys off a corner. Never had done that before, so, when in Rome. Gone to the Pike Street Market and stuff, looked at the downtown Deja Vu. Oh, I'll never work at Deja Vu, I said. I hadn't even started stripping yet, so. Anyway. So things have been fine. We go up, we're hanging out with the boys for a couple days. I'm staying with Scott in his room. Danny's with her guy. And Danny, the former guitar player of Dangerous Toys, was like, oh, it's too bad about Shara. We're like, yeah, she's in love, she's engaged, whatever. Didn't say she was pregnant or anything. Anyway, come back after a couple days, and we told her, is it okay? You're not going to be mad if we go and hang out for a couple days with the guys at the hotel. Why don't you come with us? Just to goof off, you don't need to do anything. You don't have to be unfaithful. Whatever. She refused, and she's like, no, it's fine. We all know it's not fine, right? So, her and her mom, she's like, well, by the way, when are you guys going back to Salt Lake? We're like, we were moving here. We had started applying for jobs and stuff, and waitressing positions, whatever you do. I was 18 years old. Danny was still 19, not 20 yet. Oh no, she had just turned 20, yeah. But I was still 18, she was 20. So we were young. We were naive. We had been kept in this little rock and roll bubble for 3-4 years at this point, So, like I said, we were believing her that we would have a place to stay. And she was making it sound like a couple months. She was even saying it in front of her mom. But because we went up, and we're hanging out with Scott and the other guys in Dangerous Toys, she got all butthurt and decided, well, you guys got to go. So her and her mom started being really hostile, and oh, by the way, we live in, welfare housing, so we can't have guests more than 2 weeks. You have another week to get out. What? We didn't have that much money. Yeah, we both had enough money, to last a couple weeks, but not to last in a hotel for a couple weeks. Maybe. So we're like, what are we doing? And we had kind of met a couple of the local bands, gone down to the PPU, the Practice Pads Unlimited, where like the Rhino Humpers, Blacken, had gone up to Seattle to Alice in Chains and Mother Love Bones at everybody's practice pad, and had met them. So we had already done all this in a week. And here I am, going from rock genre to rock genre seamlessly. Those boys, like I always say, in the 90s, the grungies were like, oh, we don't do groupies. Really, Eddie Vedder? Even before there was an Eddie Vedder and a Pearl Jam. Really, Eddie Vedder? No. Anyway, so we had been hanging out and we didn't know what to do. Well, Danny and I kind of had a habit of collecting hotel keys. And at the time, they were the punch cards. They had these little holes in them. I had a theft into my storage unit. Again, this was something that was stolen in a box. There was a little music box my grandmother had made me that I kept these in. Anyway, and they were just these plastic little cards about yay big, and they had these holes in them, and they would be programmed to each door. So as we hung out with bands, like we were hanging out with Dangerous Toys, obviously. Then a couple days later was Overkill, who I spent my 18th birthday with. This is a little over a year later. I called a Paramount, because back then we knew to call the production office. So I called the production office. I'm like, hey, can I talk to Blitz, please? Tell him it's a friend of his from Salt Lake City. So I called him. I'm like, hey, it's Allison from Salt Lake City from the 18th birthday. Oh, hey. Oh, yeah, I'm living in Seattle now. Oh, you're on the guest list. Cool beans, see you in a few. Walked up, got on the bus. They were staying at the Camlin, because the Paramount was right here, and there was a hotel that's still across the street from it, the Camlin. Then the Toronto, that's going to come in later with the Sex Pistols. But, so, most of the bands that played the Paramount would literally stay across the street at the Camlin. So we started keeping the hotel keys. We stayed there with, like I said, Dangerous Toys, Overkill. We hung out with Great White. No sex, drugs, or rock and roll, Great White. But we did keep one of the room keys, kind of the real motivation, because, no, we don't hang out with Great White. That's slumming. Yeah, by this point especially. Who else had played? Michael Schenker Group, LA Guns. So all these bands that we already knew and we were hanging out with, we would keep these room keys. And thank God we did. Because they just kicked us out. Like, didn't even give us the week. Like, the next day, her mom and Shara packed the bags. Well, we don't think it was very good of you to go up there without Shara, and how disrespectful of you. And like, we asked. We wouldn't have gone if we knew this was going to put us into jeopardy like that. So this is why we were homeless. Not because we just are some vagabond street urchin drug addicts. It was a circumstance of trust. We trusted someone who wasn't trustworthy, period. So before, you read that review, fuck you, bitch. I hope to God you don't ever go through that, because if you're going to be sitting there being so negative, you're creating your own karma. Okay? So hope to God you don't ever have to go through that, because hotel keys are not the same anymore. You can't just sneak in the rooms. So anyway, after we got kicked out, Motley Crue comes to town. I'm with Nikki again. We go to the hotel. Faster Pussycat is opening up. They were staying at the Four Seasons, which is a little bit further away from the Camlin and the Paramount. So I'm hanging out with Nikki, and none of these guys knew. This is the first they're hearing of it when they read the book, or Scott, Blitz, any of them, because I still hang around. When they're in town, I'll still go and hang out. I adore Scott. We're still friends on Facebook. A lot of these guys I still know. So this is the first even they're hearing about it, because they didn't know. They had no idea. We had our suitcases, Danny and I would, and we would go stash them in lockers at the bus stop, at the bus station all day. And then just kind of go wander around Seattle. Like I said, we had some money. For the first week, we kind of paid for a hotel room, but we didn't want to run out of money, and we were running out of money because we couldn't keep affording this, and we couldn't get jobs right off the bat like we thought we could. It was just really, naive, young circumstances. Girls taking off on an adventure. And this whole adventure, like I said, we're still going to PPU and the other practice pads and hanging around Alice in Chains and Talks Cheap and Blacken and the Rhino Humpers, and all the big Seattle bands at the time. Mother Love Bone. Andrew was so much shorter than everybody thinks, and I love Mother Love Bone. Like, just sitting in the PPU, listening to them, even if you weren't in their practice pad when they were going, was, there's a lot of days I wish Pearl Jam never happened, and no offense to Eddie Vedder. No. But Mother Love Bone was just that magical of a band. Like, you could see why they set off the grunge movement, because, wow. Such enigmatic, you know, it's like Dio. Small package, huge personality. Anyway, so, yeah, we were taking these hotel keys, and we would go at night, and there were these two night guys who worked and the Camlin is a nice hotel. This is not some cheap-ass, rundown hotel, motel bullshit. This was a nice, classic, old-school boutique hotel, and it was a beautiful place. Just absolutely gorgeous, you know, the old mahogany doors, absolutely gorgeous, you know, poster beds. So we kind of explained to them, they would see us with the bands and stuff, they'd be like, oh, there's no band in town, what are you doing here? We told them our circumstances, so they would let us go through the room keys that we had and tell us which rooms were available. So these two guys kept Danny and I off the streets, and thank God they did, because how scary would it have been for us to be sleeping? And we were, you know, didn't want to call our moms. Our moms had given us both a lot of crap about leaving and just getting up and taking off, you know, whatever. So you're young and stubborn, and you don't want to call your family. You're everything when you call your family. Oh, we're great. Yeah, no, we're fine. We're not at Char's. We're just staying in another friend's house. And we had been going between there and Tacoma, and we'd known some other girls from the Legends, Tacoma, where we had actually first met Alice in Chains and Mother Love Bone and everything, and where at least one of those bands were actually signed from. We were at that show. So again, it's not just about me. It's about, look at the genre. Read between the lines. Here I am going from the butt rock genre and the metal, thrash metal, and now I'm up in Seattle, immersing myself into grunge before it's really hitting the rest of the world. I already know these guys. I already know who Alice in Chains was. I knew who Nirvana was when Teen Spirit hit the airwaves. So we're running around doing all this stuff. I'm fucking Nikki Sixx. I'm with Scott Dalhover again, doing my normal groupie shit. And Danny and I are keeping this roof over our head, running out of money. And Danny's a photographer, and she had some really nice 30 millimeters that she kept with us. And as we'd go around, she would take pictures around Seattle. So as we're running out of money, okay, we figure out we don't need money for the hotel rooms. We just need money for food. And for this woman to post that this is a degrading story, it shows just how negative and black and hateful her soul is, and how gone to the ego it is, because I think this is a beautiful story of, I don't know if God showed himself, the universe, whatever you believe, but this is what happened next. And this is, for this woman to just be so degrading out of what was really truly a human kindness, beautiful story, no matter how you want to believe how this person got there. So Danny and I went down Pike Street, close to the freeway, to the pawn shop where the Jimi Hendrix painting is. You guys will all know what I'm talking about. This is a big iconic painting right downtown Seattle. We're trying to pawn her cameras. Well, the pawnbroker just doesn't want it. Cameras aren't worth it at the time. We're like, just $50. This is a $450 camera. Just $50, that's all we need. We can get by on $5 a day. He wouldn't sell it to us. So we go out, and we're just standing on the street, which is totally empty. No car in front of us, no one parked. There's an alleyway behind us. There's no one even walking, because we're close to the freeway. The exit is a little more kind of around and comes onto the street. And there weren't even any cars coming off that freeway. Not one single car. Not one person. Except for the guy that was behind us that was getting ready to lynch us. We didn't see him though. Because we were sitting there, we were like, fuck, we're going to have to call our moms. We don't want to go home. We want to be big girls and take off into the world and conquer the world on our own. As you do at 18, 19, 20 years old. You know, that's what you do. Doesn't always go as planned. Because you get fucked over. Not because you're drug addict ingrates, like this person made it sound. So anyway, we are just sitting there. Danny and I both just looked down, and we are just crying. And we don't see the guy behind us, and all of a sudden, we look up. And there's this African-American gentleman who looks like Arthur Ashe, the tennis player. Spitting image. Arthur Ashe was dead by this point, had passed away. And he's in this silver sedan car. Don't even remember what it was. I remember it being silver. And he's just leaning up against the car. No car door shut. Did not hear any car pull up. I mean, we were 2 feet away from the curb where this car was all of a sudden there. And he's like, ladies, he's like, are you doing okay? We're like, no. He's like, well, and we kind of told him what was going on. He's like, well, that's funny. I just came here looking for a camera. He's like, how about I buy that camera from you? And we were like, we just want $50 and, you know, he's like, but I just need you to get in my car right now. Right now. Like, we were like, what? And okay, he's like, I'll take you back to your hotel. Tell me where you're staying. Trust me. And we didn't get like this crazy, scary vibe off him. We got like this calming vibe from him. And just felt safe. So we got in the car and he started to take off. He's like, all right. He's like, where's the camera? He's like, but first, do you want to go out to lunch? We're like, no, you don't have to do that. Seriously. You know, just buy the camera. That's all we need. And he's like, no, I want to take you out to lunch. He's like, I'm not from Seattle. Maybe you girls know downtown a little bit. We're like, yeah, well, we've been here about, you know. So this was probably 3 weeks after we had arrived in Seattle, a month maybe. Probably about a month. So he gives us, you know, he ends up giving us $100 for the camera. Takes us out to this really great lunch. We're showing him around the Pike Street. We're just enjoying his company. And when he picked us up, there was that person down the alleyway was about ready. He like had his knife out. He was ready to get Danny and I. So thank God this guy came along. And I cannot even remember his name. I can't. I almost do want to think he said it was Arthur, but he was just such an amazing spirit to run into. Whoever he was, whatever he was, and whatever brought him to that curb at that moment in time. Like I said, there was no cars. We would have been able to hear them. We would have seen them. It was literally, we looked down 2 seconds and here's this guy. So when he gave us the $100 for the camera, he puts it in the trunk of his car. Never saw it again. We didn't know what rooms we were going to be in at the Camlin. Nope. Didn't know. So dropped us off at the hotel. We saw the guys. They told us what rooms were available. We got these adjoining rooms so we could have our own beds for the night. You know, kind of a luxury of our circumstance. And as Danny walked into her room, and I had walked into mine and we both opened up the adjoining doors. And she goes into her room. There's her camera, sitting on the bed. This guy could not have come in that hotel any other way. He did not know what rooms we were going to be in, and he could not have gotten past us by the front desk and everything. So you tell me. You tell me. I don't know. I don't know. Her camera that was in that trunk, that was not taken out of that trunk did not open at any other time, was in a room that he didn't even know, we didn't even know we were going to be in. So it's not a story of seedy homelessness. It's a story of, wow, there were still amazing people who have good hearts and souls. Whoever or whatever he was, however he was sent to us, that's a pretty fucking amazing story if you ask me. But that's not it. When Motley Crue was playing, now this is where I first had the opportunity to become a stripper. but I wasn't ready yet. I didn't want to be a stripper yet because the clubs in Seattle seemed so seedy. And I swore I'd never work at that Deja Vu. I hear they're just as seedy. More than half my career was spent with the Deja Vu Corporation. And I said I'd never live in Vegas too, but, well, there we go. So when Motley Crue and Faster Pussycat came into town, Danny and I were cruising from the Camlin over to their hotel, the Four Seasons. So, and we had to go by Razzmatazz, which was owned by Tammy Down's foster mother and Pam, and that was subsequently bought by Harry Mahoney. I think he had just bought it, or she was just in the process of selling it to Harry, to the Deja Vu Corporation. So as we're walking by Razzmatazz, this white car, the windows roll down, and I'm in this, just your typical black dress, heels, so is Danny. We're just looking cute as always. And we hear, "Hey girls!" Turn around. Oh, look, there's Faster Pussycat in Pam's car. Yeah, because they're just cruising around. They're like, "No," and we're all talking. They get out of the car, and I'm like, "Oh, cool. We're not telling him. I already know Nick at 6. That's who I'm going for." They're all staying at the same hotel. So he's like, "No, you're gorgeous. Both of you girls are gorgeous. You should come in and audition. My foster mother owns this place." He's like, "I can guarantee you get a job here." And as desperate as we were for money, I wasn't ready. I was like, maybe, blah, blah. I'm like, "But let's go, let's go party. Let's go back to the hotel." We were headed over that way anyway. So we all go back to the hotel, go to the hotel bar. There's Nikki. I'm like, "Hey, Nikki." He's like, "So, Lake, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "Just moved to Seattle, Didn't give him the details. Like I said, none of the rockers knew. This is the first they're all hearing about it when they read the book or watching this vlog. So, and also at the hotel at the same time, there was this Miss Snowball competition going on. Miss Snow Queen, which was a drag queen competition. There were these two girls. Oh my God, they were fucking gorgeous. Like that long Jennifer Aniston hair from Friends when she grew it out. Just gorgeous girls. We tried to tell Tammy. He didn't listen to us. Ran upstairs with them 10 minutes later. And nobody was mad or hostile or anything. He was just like, "Yeah, I should have listened to you," because it just wasn't his thing that I knew of, or that night or whatever. People were all cool. He's like, "Yeah, cool, sorry." They're like, "Oh, cool, miscommunication." Nobody was hurting a soul because that's not rock and roll. And that just who wasn't Tammy was. But he was just kind of embarrassed, and we kind of gave him shit, and even the drag queens gave him shit about it. We're like, "Yeah, told you that was a drag queen." And so hung out with Nikki, went to Motley Crue, like I said. As time went by, a couple more weeks went by, was still hanging out with the local bands. Like I said, down at Legends, had met these other girls. And one of the girls' dads owned some rental property, and they owned this, was it 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom? I think it was a 3-bedroom house. So Danny, me, Jackie, Colleen, and Kim all moved into this house that her dad owned, and it was just a disaster. Like, we would have all the local rocker guys over, and the other girls loved it and stuff, and the girl whose dad owned the house was dating the owner of the club Legends, and yeah, we were having a good time, but we didn't take him up to hang out with the big bands with us. We just sort of went, Danny and I just sort of went, because they were, kind of backstabbing, kind of using. Like, they had the guys in Talks Week piss in our shower and stuff. We were the only ones paying rent there. Like, our dad sent us some money to kind of get us by, and we were the only ones paying rent. So why they were treating us like that, I don't know. It's just because they were pissed off because we weren't taking them up to hang out with Motley Crue or with so-and-so or whatever, the big bands. That we were hanging out with all the bands in Seattle, which actually were about to become the big bands. So, there was this jealousy, and they did stuff like that. And one day we came home and they had moved everything out. All the furniture, everything, because we had just, all kind of collected furniture. We were there for like a month and had beds to sleep in and everything, and just even everything Danny and I had collected, just gone. And we had met the local bands, Jason McKibben, who really helped us out through all this. I thank you, Jason. He was in a band called Stepfather. went and got a couple of the boxes that we left there for us and took care of them and everything. So thank you, Jason. Because these girls, like I said, they just moved out, and this girl, Jackie, and she had come home, and her boyfriend was a local promoter who knew all the local bands and stuff, and we were just kind of sitting there and didn't really have that much more money left, so we were living off dry top ramen. Like, we didn't even have a pot to boil it in. So next thing you know, got on another Greyhound, left Seattle. About 3 weeks after they all left us, we tried to find jobs, but we didn't have a car or anything. Like I said, we just moved up there with nothing, no idea. Some money in our pocket and a few suitcases and a couple boxes. No idea what we were going to do. And people do that. That shows me the person, who wrote this negative review trying to sound like I was some druggy, homeless girl. Not at all. Didn't compromise my morals, my value, my body, nothing. Still didn't go down. There was also Marie and Danny from Rhino Humpers that really helped us out. We met Colleen and them because they were staying at this girl's trailer who had inherited money, and these girls just used Shannon, spent all of her money on drugs, and told her to fuck off, and did the same thing to her that they did to Danny and I. But Marie and Danny and everybody from Rhino Humpers really helped us out a lot, really introduced us, we tried getting jobs, we tried to make a home in Seattle, and it just didn't work. So one day, 3 months after going to Seattle, Danny and I got back on a Greyhound bus and headed south. Where did we go? Tune into Patreon, I'll tell you. Wasn't directly back to Salt Lake City, I'll just give you that hint. So, yeah, got on a Greyhound, and it was during the Greyhound strike. Like, we had stink bombs, there was tires slashed of the only cool thing was these two guys who just got out of jail got on in front and sat in front of Danny and I's seats and were passing joints. This is when you could smoke cigarettes on a bus. And were passing joints to us, but how they got weed, we got weed in Seattle, but how these guys just got out of the popo and got weed is beyond me. But hey, thanks for that, dudes. Made our hell of a ride for 4 days, 3.5 days, and one bus driver trying to get us to come back to his hotel for a little pillow action, as he put it. No. So my first entrance into Seattle, into the Emerald City, and the exit wasn't exactly ideal. But what was ideal about it is we still had the same friendships in rock and roll as we did in Salt Lake City. And we made more friendships with some of the bands who would become the biggest part of the grunge movement. So by the time we went back to Salt Lake City, a few months after leaving Seattle, grunge started floating through. We already knew the boys. So, there you go. Wasn't some dumb homeless, not dumb, I didn't fall into circumstances of drugs or prostitution or anything like that. It was just Danny and I trusted the wrong person. That was it. And you don't think we were scared? I used to carry my beauty college because I went to beauty college, so I had my shears with me. Because I would cut a lot of the guys' hair in Salt Lake and rock and roll. A lot of the road crew guys, I would cut their hair so they didn't have to go anywhere. So I always kept my shears with me. And yeah, we were so scared one night, our first night there, where we didn't know what we were going to do. I kept him. We were attacked. I was going to have to stab this guy. But fortunately, the guys who we bought the weed from on the first day we were in Seattle had our backs. So, not some weird, crazy story of drug addict and despondency, just trusting the wrong person. And you know what? What a great thing to happen that God, the universe, sent this person, this Arthur Ashe person to us to save us not only from being attacked from the guy, but to keep us a roof over our head a little longer. And you know what? To give us a little faith back into humanity, because you bet your ass we had just lost some after the shit that went down with Shara and Colleen and Kim and those, Kaka and them. that was a kind of our first experience really outside the rock and roll bubble, because like I said, we had traveled the world with rock and roll and always been safe. Never had anything like that happen. And Danny and I survived it because of rock and roll, because of an ingenuity that we were like, well, we've got these hotel keys. And yeah, because we had had previous relationships with the guys that we were seeing in Seattle, so of course we stayed the night with them. We always stay the night with them. They didn't know we didn't have a home to go to. But rock and roll has always been my home to this day. And that was the roof over my head and Danny's head in Seattle. So, there you go. Hope you liked my little story of survival and hope, because really that's what it's about. Like I said, just that guy that just saved us came out of nowhere, literally. He was put there by something bigger than what we see every day. Plain and simple. So, cheers to that guy, to the angel Arthur Ashe. Thank you for saving us. Like I said, hit the subscribe button, folks. These are just the tip of the iceberg stories. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how much my book is only half the story. Don't forget, I do have merchandise, my Backstage Bimbo merchandise. I have some funny t-shirts with different things Rocker said on it and stuff. My newest one is going to be really Eddie Vedder. And we'll find out even more why when I vlog him later. Alright. Subscribe, hit the bells, hit the like button. Let's get me out there and noticed, because we know I'm the real deal. I'm not going to cover up what rock and roll was like or sugarcoat any of my experiences or make it seem like they were more significant than they were. If it was just a fuck buddy, it was a fuck buddy. If it was an 8-year romance like with Vin, or 5-year with Steve Jones, then yeah, obviously. Or 5 years with James Hetfield. But you want to hear more of those stories, guys? Come back next week. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bells. Thanks for tuning in to Cocktails and Rocktails, everybody. See you on the flip side.